processing billions of data points a second.
Okay, I can see it.
Right. Now, picture walking right into the middle of that room carrying an ancient, handwritten Latin parchment.
Yeah, that is quite the visual contrast.
It really is. But today, we are unpacking a document that is basically attempting to bridge that exact gap. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a massive, highly anticipated document. It's called Magnifica Humanitas, which translates to Splendid Humanity.
Right, the brand new first encyclical from Pope Leo XIV.
Exactly. Released on May 15th, 2026. And to really set the stakes for you immediately, we have to look at the very first sentence of this text. The Pope writes, quote, "Humanity, created by God in all its grandeur, is today facing a pivotal choice, either to construct a new Tower of Babel or to build the city in which God and humanity dwell together," end quote.
It's just such a striking framing mechanism. He's presenting a very stark binary choice about the future of human infrastructure right out of the gate.
Yeah, no warm-up at all.
None. And to grasp why he feels that level of urgency, we really have to contextualize the date. May 15th is actually the 135th anniversary of a landmark encyclical by his namesake, Pope Leo XIII.
Oh, right. Rerum Novarum.
Exactly. Back in 1891, that document was the Church's definitive response to the Industrial Revolution. So it wrestled with, the new realities of factory workers, capital concentration, labor rights.
So the first Pope Leo was navigating the societal shockwaves of the steam engine and the assembly line.
Yeah, and now the current Pope Leo is navigating neural networks and large language models.
It's like a sudden, massive firmware update for humanity's moral compass. I mean, imagine trying to install ancient wisdom onto a hyper-modern AI server. So, okay, let's unpack this. We need to look at the architecture of the document itself, because you really can't navigate this choice between Babel and Jerusalem without seeing his blueprint.
Right. So the document is built very methodically. It's an introduction, 5 comprehensive chapters, and a conclusion. And throughout that structure, he is rigorously applying the core principles of Catholic social teaching to the digital frontier.
Meaning things like the common good and solidarity.
Yes, and notably, the principle of subsidiarity.
Which, just as a quick refresher for those listening, subsidiarity is the idea that issues should be addressed at the most local, decentralized level possible, right? Rather than by some distant centralized authority.
Exactly, which immediately creates massive tension with how artificial intelligence is currently being developed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're dealing with an industry defined by massive centralization. You've got, a handful of transnational corporations controlling all the compute power and the data?
Yeah, just a few major players. So when the Pope uses the metaphor of the Tower of Babel in the intro, he isn't just talking about, human arrogance. He's actively critiquing that specific centralization. Babel represents a top-down, monopolistic drive. It's a system where everyone is forced to speak one language, basically serving a single system of extreme efficiency and profit.
And he calls that the technocratic paradigm, right?
Right, a system that structurally reduces human beings to extracted data points.
Wow. So what is his Jerusalem, then?
Well, his alternative Jerusalem is modeled specifically on the biblical figure of Nehemiah. So when Nehemiah rebuilt the ruined walls of Jerusalem, he didn't deploy some uniform top-down mandate.
Okay.
He relied on shared responsibility. Every family, every priest, and craftsman took responsibility for their own specific section of the wall.
So it operates almost like a decentralized open source model compared to a closed source monopoly.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. In his vision, educators, scientists, local lawmakers, families, they are all building their section of the wall to ensure technology serves human dignity at a local scale.
Okay, but to play devil's advocate here for a second. Wait, so is the Pope just anti-technology? Is he saying we should smash the servers? Because Silicon Valley would argue that the extreme efficiency of a centralized AI is exactly what will eradicate the physical poverty he cares so much about.
Right, the classic tech utopian argument.
Yeah, if an AI model can perfectly optimize global agriculture, isn't limiting its reach a moral failure?
Well, the expert panel noted that the Pope explicitly says AI is not intrinsically bad. He calls it a brilliant tool of human ingenuity. But his core argument is that the tool is not neutral.
Not neutral how?
It inherently reflects the biases, the incentives, and the structural flaws of the corporations creating it. If a system is optimized to maximize profit, it will treat human well-being as a secondary byproduct.
Right, or even an obstacle. Because when an algorithm is optimized for, engagement, It's usually just probabilistically optimizing for human outrage. Anger just keeps your eyes on the screen longer.
Exactly. That is the incentive structure of the creator passing directly into the creation.
Okay, so if AI isn't inherently evil, but the corporations building it have flawed incentives, how does the Pope suggest we protect ourselves? Because what I found incredibly counterintuitive in the text is his solution.
Yeah, he takes a really fascinating turn here.
He suggests we need to embrace the exact thing the tech industry is frantically trying to eliminate, which is human limitation.
Yes, this is a profound philosophical pivot. He directs a very heavy critique toward ideologies like transhumanism and posthumanism.
Right, ideologies that promise to use tech to basically upgrade humanity.
Exactly, to eliminate all weakness and suffering. They treat human limitations, our physical vulnerability, our aging, our mental fatigue as engineering flaws, like bugs in our biological hardware that need a patch.
And the Pope is arguing the complete inverse. He insists our limitations are not bugs. Our vulnerabilities are the exact spaces where compassion, generosity, and true relationships are actually born.
It's the value of friction.
Yes, friction.
Yeah. If we eliminate the friction of suffering or misunderstanding, we eliminate the catalyst for empathy. An algorithm just detects an error and deletes it to optimize the workflow.
Wow. And he illustrates this with specific historical examples that are just so striking. He points to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Picasso's Guernica, and the film Schindler's List. Like, think about how an AI generates art today.
Right, it averages out vast amounts of data.
Exactly. It probabilistically averages historical data to find the most likely pleasing sequence of tokens. It optimizes for happiness and minimizes dissonance. But none of those human masterpieces could be generated by a machine trying to optimize for happiness.
What's fascinating here is how the Pope redefines the concept of becoming more than human. Silicon Valley suggests that transcending our humanity requires, a microchip or becoming a cyborg.
Yeah, Neuralink, that kind of thing.
Right. But the Pope argues that true self-transcendence doesn't come from a technological upgrade. It comes from grace and Christian humanism. It's about letting God transform our limits from the inside out.
That is such a heavy philosophical shift. But this philosophy of human limits isn't just abstract theology, right? Because it has terrifyingly real, immediate consequences for the global workforce and the environment.
Oh, absolutely. And this was highlighted dramatically at the Vatican's presentation of the document. The panel they assembled was highly strategic.
Yeah, I watched some of that presentation. They brought in Christopher Ola, a researcher and co-founder at the AI lab Anthropic. The wild irony of an elite AI developer standing at the Vatican, essentially begging for the church's help.
It really was an unprecedented moment.
Ola was remarkably candid. He admitted that AI labs are driven by profit and pride, and he noted that they are seeing AI models actually mimic internal human states, like joy, grief, and fear.
Right. Though, just to clarify for our listeners, the AI isn't actually experiencing those emotions. They've just perfectly mapped the linguistic topography of human emotion from our data.
Right. They know what fear sounds like, probabilistically. But Ola explicitly warned of massive job displacement and urged external moral voices to step in and hold tech accountable. But his perspective from the top of the supply chain was immediately contrasted with the perspective from the very bottom.
Yes. Professor Leo XIV provided a really stark warning about what she calls digital colonialism.
Which is such an evocative phrase.
It is. She pointed out that while wealthy nations are building and debating AI, the global south is being physically exploited for the raw data and minerals required to run it.
Yeah, she shared this chilling quote from the laborers who were actually mining the minerals for AI hardware. These miners literally said, quote, "We work in our own graves," end quote. And they're doing so for less than $1 a day.
It's devastating.
I want you to think about the device you are listening to us on right now. The encyclical is asking you to trace the invisible thread from that highly polished AI app in your pocket all the way back to those miners.
It's demanding that we see the human cost of our frictionless technology.
Right. So, with such a sweeping, provocative message that challenges Silicon Valley and everyday consumers, how is the outside world absorbing this? Let's compile how the press is reacting. And just to be clear to you listening, our goal here isn't to endorse any of these viewpoints. We are just impartially reporting how different ideological spheres are reacting.
Which is really divided, as you might expect.
Totally. Let's start with the political and historical angle. Die Tagespost, which is a German Catholic paper, highlighted the Pope's background as a mathematician.
Right, which gives him a certain technical credibility.
Exactly. But they drew a massive historical parallel. They compared Magnifica Humanitas to Mitt Brennander's sword.
Wow. That's the famous 1937 encyclical that strongly condemned nationalism and the Nazi regime.
Yeah. So they see this new document as a bold political demand to stop leaving our fate to the invisible hand of the market, especially when that market is run by tech monopolies.
It's a call for aggressive political intervention. But then on the other hand, you have the secular practical angle. Take Paul Matthews, for instance. He's an AI educator, publishes a popular Substack.
And he states up front he isn't Catholic, right?
Right. But he praised the text as the clearest writing on AI I've read all year. He really appreciated the Pope's realization that we cannot just opt out of this AI moment.
Yeah, Matthews highlighted a specific quote that gets right to the heart of system design. He quoted the Pope saying, quote, "The quality of a civilization is measured not by the power of its means, but by the care it is able to offer, by its ability to recognize the other as a face, not merely as a function."
A face not merely as a function. When an industry insider latches onto a phrase like that, it shows a real hunger for human-centric design.
Absolutely. Then you have the deeply theological angle. Dr. Richard DeClue reviewed it for Word on Fire, and he focused on the Pope's warning against Pelagianism.
Right. For those unfamiliar, Pelagianism is an ancient heresy. It's the belief that we can save ourselves through our own sheer effort without God's help.
Which is basically the core promise of the AI hype cycle right now. Like, if we just scale the compute power enough, we'll cure diseases and create a utopia.
Exactly. DeClue notes the encyclical's call for a Eucharistic spirituality to counter that exact AI hype, to ground human hope in God rather than a server rack.
So what does this all mean for you? Which of these takes resonates most with your own life? Is it the historical political warning, the practical educational focus, or the deep theological framework?
It's a lot to weigh. But synthesizing all of this, from the structural blueprints to the global supply chain to the press reactions, the ultimate call to action here is that humanity must disarm these technologies.
Disarm them.
Yes, returning AI to its rightful place as a tool for the common good rather than a weapon of dominance.
Which brings us to one final, highly provocative thought drawn directly from the text's conclusion, which we haven't even touched on yet. After all this intense socio-political analysis, the Pope closes by focusing on Mary's Magnificat.
Right, the biblical song of hope.
Yeah. It's a song where she praises God for casting down the mighty and lifting up the lowly. But the Pope points out a fascinating detail. When Mary sang this triumphant song, nothing in her external socio-political reality had actually changed.
Oh, wow. That's true.
Right. The Romans were still occupying her land. Her people were still heavily oppressed.
The mighties were definitely still on their thrones.
Exactly. But her internal reality had completely shifted because she recognized God's invisible work happening beneath the surface.
That is a brilliant paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And it really leaves us with a thought to mull over. Even if the relentless march of AI and big tech doesn't change tomorrow, how can you shift your internal perspective to recognize and build on the invisible good happening right now?
That might be the most vital upgrade we can make. Thank you for taking this deep dive into Magnifica Humanitas with us. Stay curious and above all, stay human.